Welcome to this explainer. If you have ever found yourself staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. with your mind just racing through a highlight reel of literally every mistake you've ever made, or agonizing over a meeting that is still 3 days away, well, you are intimately familiar with the incredibly frustrating, universal struggle of chronic worry and sleep disturbance. Today, we're going to unpack exactly what is happening inside your brain during those agonizing early morning hours, and way more importantly, how to actually stop it.
So, let's dive right into this by answering the most common question head-on. Can anxiety cause insomnia? The short answer is absolutely yes. But the relationship between your racing mind and your lack of sleep is deeply, deeply interconnected. It's this biological and psychological loop where each condition feeds off of and ultimately amplifies the other. It's a real vicious cycle. Here is our roadmap for making sense of all this. We'll start with the anxiety-insomnia cycle, take a look at the sleep-deprived brain, examine nocturnal panic attacks, learn how to break the conditioned loop, and wrap up with medications and sleep architecture. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The anxiety-insomnia cycle, a bidirectional loop. Let's start by looking at how sleep and anxiety are not just a one-way street. Historically, we kind of thought of insomnia as just a symptom of anxiety, like you're stressed out, so obviously you can't sleep. But recent epidemiological data completely flips that assumption on its head. Think about this massive cohort study of over 16,000 adults. It shows a really striking asymmetry. Now, it is true that baseline anxiety increases your risk of developing future sleep disturbances by 1.20-fold. But baseline sleep disturbance is actually the much more powerful upstream driver. It increases the risk of future clinical anxiety by a massive 1.89-fold. So what does this tell us? Bad sleep isn't just a byproduct of emotional distress, it's actually the primary engine driving it.
Section 2. The sleep-deprived brain inside the engine. Now, we really need to zoom in to the subcortical level of the brain to figure out what exactly is happening to our neurochemistry when we're deprived of rest. Why does it make us so incredibly anxious?
Okay, so under chronic sleep loss, your brain's stress response system, the HPA axis, goes into total overdrive. Normally, your hippocampus acts as a brake on this system, right? But chronic stress and sleep deprivation actually reduce your hippocampal volume. This literally floods your body with the stress hormone cortisol, right in the evening when you should be winding down. At the exact same time, your neurotransmitters shift into this constant state of hyperarousal. Your brain drops the production of GABA, which is a calming chemical, and cranks up excitatory glutamate. Basically, your brain is stepping on the gas and cutting the brakes at the exact same time. And because of this wild chemical soup, your brain physically alters how its different parts talk to each other. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the logical, rational, emotional brake of your brain, literally decouples from your amygdala, the primitive fear center. Because of this lost connection, your sleep-deprived brain experiences a staggering 60% spike in threat reactivity to negative stimuli. No way around it, that is huge.
Sleep researcher Matthew Walker hit the nail on the head when he said, "It was as though, without sleep, our brain reverts to a primitive pattern of uncontrolled reactivity. Instead of connecting with your logical prefrontal cortex, the sleep-deprived amygdala desperately shifts its connection down to the locus coeruleus in the brainstem. This triggers the release of noradrenaline, unleashing a highly volatile, hyperreactive neural state. You're not just imagining that your problems feel way bigger when you're tired. Your brain is quite literally wired to perceive them as catastrophic threats." All this hyperreactivity heavily impacts what we call the default mode network, or DMN. The DMN is essentially a network of brain regions that light up when we're doing self-referential thought, basically mind-wandering. Now, to fall asleep normally, the DMN has to deactivate. You literally have to stop thinking about yourself to fall asleep. But in anxious, sleep-deprived brains, the DMN stays hyperactive. This is the exact literal mechanism making you ruminate endlessly in bed about that awkward thing you said 5 years ago.
Moving on to Section 3, Nocturnal Panic Attacks, the sympathetic flip. Let's look at the absolute most extreme manifestation of this hyperarousal, where the simple act of transitioning into sleep becomes a truly terrifying event.
Normally, sliding into stage 3 deep sleep is marked by parasympathetic dominance. Your heart rate drops, your blood pressure falls, your body finally rests. But for some people, especially those with daytime anxiety or a history of trauma, this transition triggers what we call a sympathetic flip. Out of nowhere, without a nightmare or any conscious trigger, the autonomic nervous system violently reverses. It interprets letting your guard down as a profound threat and triggers a massive fight-or-flight response that jolts you awake with a racing heart, sweating, and even a feeling of choking.
It is incredibly important to differentiate these nocturnal panic attacks from things like sleep terrors. With a sleep terror, someone might scream or thrash around, but they wake up confused and have total amnesia of it the next day. But with a nocturnal panic awakening, the person jolts to immediate full alertness and has complete, terrifyingly detailed recall of the physical symptoms. And that vivid memory creates this deep, lingering fear of falling back asleep, which, of course, just reinforces the insomnia cycle.
Section 4. Breaking the conditioned loop with cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. Zooming back out for a second, we really need to understand how to fix this. How does a temporary bout of stress turn into a chronic, nightly battle? Well, it happens through a psychological mechanism we all know: Pavlovian conditioning.
According to Harvey's cognitive model of insomnia, just repeatedly lying there awake, frustrated, and anxious actually trains your brain to associate your bed with panic. Your bed literally stops being a cue for sleep and morphs into a conditioned trigger for hyperarousal. You start catastrophizing about how exhausted you're going to be tomorrow, you develop an intense attentional bias, like hyper-focusing on your own racing heart, and you start doing counterproductive safety behaviors, like clock watching, which only mathematically tracks your lost sleep and spikes your anxiety. You just cannot force involuntary sleep through conscious effort.
So to break this learned association, the absolute gold standard treatment is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI, specifically a module called stimulus control therapy. You literally have to retrain your brain. Step 1, the bed is strictly for sleep and intimacy. No scrolling your phone, no reading. Step 2, if you're awake and frustrated for roughly 15 to 20 minutes and don't check the clock, just guess. You have to get out of bed, leave the room. Step 3, only come back when your eyelids are physically heavy and you're genuinely sleepy, not just tired. And step 4, maintain a ruthlessly consistent morning wake time, no matter how terribly you slept, so you build up your natural sleep drive for the next night.
Section 5. Medications and sleep architecture. Finally, let's be real. For a lot of people, behavioral changes alone just aren't enough at first. Some of us need pharmacological help to act as a circuit breaker for all that anxiety. But we really need to look closely at how these drugs physically alter our actual sleep architecture, the true quality of the sleep we're getting.
So traditional GABAergic hypnotics, like your standard benzodiazepines, yeah, they will absolutely put you to sleep faster, but they come with a massive cost. They completely strip away the deep stage 3 slow wave rest that your brain desperately needs to clear out metabolic waste and heal. SSRIs, which are super common for anxiety, can actually increase wakefulness early on and potently suppress your REM sleep. On the flip side, sedating antidepressants like low-dose trazodone can increase deep sleep without killing REM. And then there's the newest class, orexin antagonists. These are cool because they don't sedate your whole brain. They just block the brain's active wake drive, which preserves your natural physiological sleep architecture.
Look, unwinding a bidirectional loop of anxiety and sleep loss takes holistic, persistent effort. It is not going to happen overnight. It requires retraining your brain's deep-seated associations, managing your chemical hyperarousal, and treating your sleep environment with ultimate respect. But honestly, just understanding the actual mechanics of what is happening under the hood gives you an immense amount of power to finally break the cycle.
I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on tonight. Take a hard look at your own habits. Is it time to finally start leaving the bed when you can't sleep instead of staring at the clock? Is it time to leave the smartphone in another room entirely? Remember, if you protect your sleep, you protect your mind. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and keep learning.